Hi, this is Ged Maheux from the Iconfactory, and I am back with another Linea Sketch tutorial, and today we're going over texture basics. Linea Sketch includes the ability to quickly and easily incorporate textures into your sketches. This is a really neat feature, and the app comes with a bunch of predefined seamless tile textures that you can use to bring character and detail to your sketches. And today we're going to quickly go over different ways to use these textures and what the techniques for them are and how to incorporate them into your work. So let's get started. First, I'm just going to run down the very basics, what a texture is and how you use it. Let's make a new sketch real quick. And let's pick a color. We're going to pick red. So in order to use textures with Linea, what we do is we open a layer panel. It can open on any layer. You can incorporate a texture onto any layer you want. And to turn it on, we're going to tap the texture button. When we do this, we're presented with a list of scrolling textures here, and they're just categorized by type initially in this list. This just makes it really easy to select the one that you want to get a quick preview of the texture, but you can also tap into the texture list and we'll see the individual categories: abstract, architectural, halftones, hatching, stippling. And some of these can be used in conjunction with themselves, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. But for now, let's pick a texture. Let's say abstract, and we'll say Sagea. And then all I have to do is grab a tool, say the pen tool, and sketch. And what I'm doing is I'm simply drawing into the layer with that selected texture. Now, if I change colors, let's pick yellow, and I paint right on top, I'm still drawing into that texture, but with that selected color. So it's like having an automatic mask of the texture that you select. And in that respect, it's really great. The texture stays aligned with the canvas, so you don't have to worry about picking your pencil up and putting it down someplace else and having the texture not be aligned. If I draw over here with a different color, it automatically lines up, which is one of the best parts about Linea textures. And if I pick a different texture, let's go back in here and let's pick, I don't know, the leaves texture, and close that, and pick a darker green. And then I can start drawing over here with the leaves texture. Now, of course, these textures are different, so we're seeing them overlap, that's what I'm talking about. You can get different kinds of effects by layering textures on top of themselves. But for the most part, you're probably going to use an individual texture within a specific part of your sketch and another in another. But again, we'll get more into that later on. This also goes for any tool that can be used to draw with. So if I pick the pencil tool and I start sketching, you'll see the textures start to come in a soft focus because I'm pressing very lightly with the pencil tool. But if I press harder, then the texture is laid down with more opacity. And I can turn the pencil on the side and do a side shading and get wide areas of texture with the pencil tool like this. And because it's the pencil tool and the pencil is laid down sporadically, I get an incomplete effect. It's like a rustic, organic effect when I lay down that particular texture. Let's do that again. I'm going to turn off the canvas texture so it's just flat. And we're going to change the texture again. Let's pick these bricks, and we're going to change to a different color. So if I do the side shading, you can start to see the brick come in, and the texture is filled in with the pencil tool slowly over different strokes until it's building up and building up. And now here in the center, it's opaque. But on the edges, we can see that it's coming in because due to the pressure that I'm pressing with the pencil, it's a little bit different. What can we do? Let's get an example of what we can do with these textures. Let's go into here. I have a drawing of a fish that I've already done, and I'm going to go to a new layer, and I'm going to select this green, and let's say turn on the textures, and let's find, let's use this wavy texture here, and I'm going to select the pen tool, and then I'm going to draw in the texture right on top of the fish. Now, because the texture is in its own layer, I'm not actually drawing into the bitmap layer with the fish. The fish is at the bottom, and the texture is here in this layer. So I can continue and fill in the texture with the pen tool a little bit at a time. I can change the size of the pen if I need to, and until I get the effect that I want. If I want to erase part of it, I'd take my finger back and knock back the texture from the edge of the fish. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, but let's say I want to just quickly fill the tail with texture. Well, that's one of the beauties of it because, again, any one of Linea's drawing tools, when applied with textures, will work. So if I tap the fill tool, I can draw an area and fill with that texture, or let's undo that. If I tap to flood fill the fin, it's going to recognize the color of the tail and simply fill it in. So, and I got a little extra there because that green is really close, so we'll just go back and knock back that one right there. And in that way, let's try it here. We'll just flood fill. Yeah. And if I want to get a shadow effect, I can erase a portion of the texture. So this casts a little bit of a light on the fin. Yeah, we'll do that here. And this one we'll do manually, and I'll fill it myself. Now, I mean, if you want to save time, again, you can flood fill a texture. I find painting textures is very fun and relaxing. I really do love it, and I think you will too. It's very cool. It's actually like kind of magic when you do it, and depending on the texture that you use, you can get some really cool effects. Now, again, if I want to, I can change the color along this. Let's choose a darker green, and I go along the edge like this. And now I've got some shading in there. It's a little too dark. So let's go next shade up like that. And I've changed the tonal range of that texture right along the edge there. And I didn't have to do anything except paint a different color into the texture layer. So now we've got a little bit of a shadow going along that back dorsal fin. And I'm going to do it here too. And then erase like that. And that's pretty cool. That's the basic application of how to use textures in Linea Sketch. Let's try a different example. We're going to close the fish here, and I've got this beach ball that I've got. And I'm going to shade the beach ball, but I'm going to use halftone dots. So I'm going to make a new texture layer, and Linea comes with a bunch of halftones already built in. There's a really fine shading halftone screen. Then there's a fine line dot, and these ones that are all named the same, they're in the same family: fine, light, medium, dark, and heavy. And then there's coarse, light, medium, dark, and heavy. If you choose a series of halftone dots from the same family, i.e. fine or coarse, then those dots align with themselves. What do I mean by that? Well, if I choose light, let's choose a color, and I say, we'll go down here, and I think we're going to choose, we'll choose this one, and we'll paint into here with light dots. And then I switch textures and I go to the next heavier dot. You can see that the halftones are, the dots themselves are aligned. So the density of the dots is increasing. And if I want to, I can even go another one and then get even heavier dots. You can see what's happening there. This way it lets you control the density of the dots from one part of your sketch to another. So again, if you choose halftone dots that are within the same naming family, fine or coarse, then those dots will align with themselves and you can overlay themselves. The same goes for hatching lines, and I'll show you a little bit about that a little bit later on. So let's clear this, and I'm going to switch back to this one, and we're going to get this next one, and I'm going to sketch in the actual halftone dots along the edge like this. So I've got like a halftone screen shadow going on, and now we're going to go to the red, and all I have to do is choose a darker shade of that and continue the dots. And then we'll continue the gray ones up here. The effect that the texture, it's totally different than filling it with a shade. If you want a particular effect with a texture, this is really great. It gives your illustration or your sketch a totally different feel than it would be if you were using the pencil or just a straight tone. Even the watercolor brush, it depends on what you're going for. So, and it's a great way to add just a little bit of detail in some places. If you want, you can get some really neat stuff going on. So, that's another application of how textures work and how to use different layering. If I want to gradually decrease the density of the dots as we move in, then I'll choose the next lighter one, and we'll go here. Now it's subtle, but these dots are smaller than the ones I put down before. And so the overall effect is that that tonality in the screen, the quote unquote printing screen, is changing from slightly thicker to slightly thinner. And if we wanted to, we could even do it again, but with a lighter gray, and continue the effect into the interior of the ball. That's a quick way to show how you can use halftones and change their colors within the dot screen itself to get a different type of effect. Okay, now let's go to another one. This is a specific example, which is really kind of cool. We can use clear ink to get even further techniques with textures. What do I mean by that? Well, clear ink acts as an eraser. Anytime you select clear ink and a tool, the background for the logo here is in this layer at the bottom. If I simply stroke, I'm erasing that background bitmap because I have clear ink selected. That's what it basically is. It turns any tool into an eraser. But when you use it with textures, the beauty of it is that it acts as a stencil, and we can erase with the texture. So if I go into the bitmap layer and I choose turn on textures, and we're going to choose this stone texture here. Okay, then I'm going to select, let's try the pencil tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase with the texture in the clear ink. I'm going to take the side shading of the pencil, and I'm just going to start pressing down. And I'm lighting up as I go up the logo. I'm not pressing very hard at the top, but at the bottom, I'm pressing very hard. So the effect is that I am erasing the bitmap with that texture and clear ink combined. And it's really neat because it lets the background color of the canvas show through. You can get some really neat effects this way. I mean, we don't have to use this texture. I can undo this. Let's choose a different texture. Oh, I don't know. One of the halftone screens, and we'll erase with that. And you can start to see it's almost like a screen printed effect in the logo, which is really cool. I mean, it all depends on what you're going for in your sketch. But I encourage you to experiment and try different things. Really, that's half of the fun, is figuring out what you can do with these textures. So let's take another one. I'm going to turn on a new layer at the top, and let's try. When I'm going to turn on textures, I'm going to pick one of the hatching types. And we have a bunch of different hatchings. There's diagonals, verticals, clean verticals, clean diagonals, and then there's these broken hatches, which are really nice. They're really rustic and they give a really cool effect. So if I zoom in on this particular part now, because I'm in its own layer and I tap the fill tool, I can fill the entire area of that blue with that texture really, really quickly. And I can do that here, here, and here. Now, I can also switch textures, and let's say I'm going to switch from the broken right to the broken left. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to flood fill in between. And now I've doubled up. I've gotten the hatchings that are going to the left and to the right. It didn't get this little bit down here between here because the trees cut it off. I can fill that in manually. And we've got this really neat effect in the sky now that wasn't there before, and it adds richness and character to your sketch. We can do the same thing in the tent if we want. I'm actually going to take a different layer. This is important. If you keep the same layer selected and you change the texture to a different one, you can do that. I can put this vertical hatching into the tent, no problem. Let's do that, and I'll show you what it's like. I'll pick a bright yellow, and I'm just going to fill it. Now these textures are in the same layer. The cross hatching and the verticals are in the same layer. If I want to edit them, if I go to erase, I'm erasing both of them. They're on the same layer. So if I put the one texture on their own layer, let's undo this, and I select a different layer, turn on texturing, and now I have the thing, and I fill. When I go to erase, I'm obviously only erasing the texture in that layer. So if you have the extra layers available, I recommend putting them in their own layer for different textures until you're done with them, and then you can merge those layers down into one as you need it if you need more layers in Linea. So let's take another one here, and we'll fill that with that texture. And you can build up these textures, and it's really neat. They give you all kinds of cool effects that you can do, and I really encourage you to go in and explore the different kinds of textures that are available in Linea. What are some of the things you can do? Well, another one here. Here's a Dungeons and Dragons map that we created. The floor here and the walls are different textures from Linea. We can go in and paint those in if we want. I can select one. Let's see where the floor is. There's the floor. So I have dungeon floor texture selected in this layer, and I can go in and paint it in. Or I can tap and fill it, and it's done. Great use of textures. We've got two different kinds of floor. This is a secret chamber or something, so you got a different kind of texture there. A diagram, a science diagram, soil profile, and I've filled in the different soil types with textures. I've got a cross hatching, I've got stone and pebble in there, great for annotating sketches and diagrams, but also, just giving something a retro feel with halftone dots. Turned off, you can see it if I zoom in and I turn off the halftone layer up here. You can see how much it changes the appearance of the sketch, like that. So there are all kinds of uses for textures in Linea Sketch. I really, really encourage you to experiment and find your way with them that works best with your project, your particular project. And send us some feedback. Tell us what you think of textures in Linea and what you'd like to see. With the textures there, we didn't include every texture under the sun. That's not what we do in Linea. We try to choose textures as far as, same thing with fonts and tonal colors and everything in Linea to try to simplify it and keep it down to what you can use to create efficiently and, without going overboard, without giving you a million different choices. So check it out. And if you enjoy creating with Linea Sketch, be sure to check out some of our other apps too. Apps for creativity like Tot. Tot's a simple, easy-to-use scratch pad that syncs to all your screens and lets you quickly collect text no matter where you go. Customize your home and lock screen wallpapers with Wallaroo. Browse from hundreds of fun wallpapers and change them with just a few clicks. Try it for free, and if you subscribe, you receive new, exclusive wallpapers each and every week. Over on Apple Arcade, be sure to check out our fast-paced puzzler, Forensic Overtime. Play over 100 fun levels, participate in daily challenges, earn Game Center achievements, and more. Head to apps.iconfactory.com to learn more about these and other great Iconfactory apps today.